I'm excited because, you know, in October I write these Rosado series, but in April I write these standalones. And it's called Most Wanted, and the idea is basically in 7 words that a woman who is pregnant using a sperm donor, a married woman, finds out that her sperm donor is a suspected serial killer. Dun, 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 dun. I don't, let me think about that. I should know the answer to that question. No, I actually wanted to be a lawyer. I always loved it. I still love it. I don't miss it because being a single mom, and I've been a single mom my whole life, it's kind of hard to be a trial lawyer, which is what I was, and raise a kid. And that was the most important thing to me. And now the kid's 29, as you just said, my writing partner on this humorous memoir, so that's kind of fun. But I love books so much. I'm sort of a readaholic. I read constantly. I read really widely. First, mystery thrillers, because basically I just like a book that moves fast, and that generally seems to be a mystery thriller. At the same token, there are novels that move fast, and like I think of The Nightingale, a Chris and Hannah book that I just couldn't put down. Liane Moriarty, that are outside the thriller rubric or genre, whatever we're saying that is, but you still love it. I just also love nonfiction. I just finished Amanda Palmer's The Art of Asking, which I really kind of loved. I read Elizabeth Gilbert on the plane, Big Mac. I just love to read. I'm into it. No, and I really hoped it. I feel so lucky. I'm on a book tour now, and it's so wonderful to be there. And if there's some people in the, you know, I think everybody probably in the world just wants to be taken seriously for what they do. And especially if you come from, you know, it isn't processed. So you're like, hey, just take me seriously. You know, does this connect with you? And you're always trying to, you know, my daughter says some writers try to write to go within and some write to connect. I'm a connector. And that's the whole point of books. It's sort of my little thing that I always sort of say, but it's important to say now, which is that why books matter is that if you write something and you tell it true, like Coppola says, people connect with it for that reason. And that's the part where that's why the arts matter, because then people start to see themselves and connect better to other people. That's why sort of like books make you when you read for an hour. I always feel I feel centered. I feel calmer. And I go online. I spend a lot of time wasting time online, just like everybody else. But I'm always like, wow, that's going to make you jumpy and depressed. You will think you suck after you spend an hour reading online. You need to read. I had been a trial lawyer, and then I quit when she was born and spent 5 to 6 years trying to get published. Unbelievable rejection. My favorite rejection letter is from a New York agent who said, we don't have time to take any more clients, and if we did, we wouldn't take you. You know, I see that guy every year at BEA, where I was the keynote, and I ignore him pointedly, because my mother taught me to hate alive. Like, that's how I am. So really, it was really the amazing thing, and you know, as a dad, I mean, the birth of my daughter changed everything. I loved my job, but I quit my job because I loved being with her. And then just got through the struggle of it and the rejection. I really want to encourage people who are watching this who write, because I know people will be, I mean, God, it's really important that they hear that there's not some mythical divide between unpublished and published. Amazon proves that every day by their own publishing program, and the options are so much more than they were when I started out. But I just kept at it, and I grew my career very slowly over time. 25 years and 25 books. I feel very lucky, very lucky. Well, if there's anybody with any kind of authorial hopes, I do think you're right about lawyers, because I think it's sort of like if you're good in English, you go to law school, and if you're good in math, you go to med school, and somehow, you know, hopefully there's more options than that. But, you know, I will tell you my really hard advice, which is going to sound very trite, but let's be real. It's just do it. The thing about I borrowed it from Nike. I mean, the truth about writing is it is behavioral. And so when you sit down in that chair, especially because there's no farm team for it, and you don't have to go to law school. You can just be a person and say, I'm going to try to write a novel, and they can do it. And so the key thing is you sit down every day, even if you're working, because my first few books, I still had a day job because it was such a struggle to get into print. And you say, I'm going to write a quota. It's 100 words. My daughter has one of 500 words. I have one of 2,000 words. I do it every day, no matter what. And you give yourself permission, as Annie Lamott says in her wonderful book, Bird by Bird. Stephen King says the same thing in his book on writing. Elizabeth Gilbert as well. Then what happens is all the emotional stuff comes in. You get in your own way. And there's no boss around to go, so you have to do it yourself. And just give yourself permission to write a crappy first draft. You know, Hemingway said, write drunk, edit sober. I totally believe that. So that's my advice. It's really just do it. Just stop thinking about it, because especially all of us in these days, we overthink everything. And especially, if I may say, I think women tend to do this. We're nervous about taking risks. Oh, I'm not ready yet. You know, like Lean In makes so clear. That's really true stuff. Women never feel ready. I'm like, just sit in the chair and try to tell the story. I believe that. I started because I first missed Irma Bombeck, which is a name you may or may not know. But I missed in the newspaper that woman's voice that was about domestic issues but was funny. And long story short, I was at a fundraiser in Laguna Niguel for a library. And I'm divorced twice, which is not a fact I always lead with. But all these women were like, I'm divorced 4 times, I'm divorced 5 times. Like, I need to move to live right. But then the women started to say, the ones who were divorced 3 times said, I have 3 dogs. And the other one was like, I'm divorced 4 times, I have 4 dogs. And I'm like, well, I have 5 dogs and I have 2 divorces. So I'm kind of behind. Like, I need to marry somebody and shove, like, get out the door. Anyway, so I said, it was a weird moment, but it was one of those moments where I said, I can write that, because I don't have the nuclear family that Irma Bombeck had. Like, she had a husband and kids, and it was all normal, whatever that is. I'm just a single mom with my kid. And so, like, we always joke, like, Thanksgiving, that's it. But I said, you can write that, because the truth is, every woman, and I think it's true of every man, but I have ovaries, so I have to speak for my ovaries, that you're going to make your way in this world and make yourself happy. So I titled I realize I'm collecting these dogs because I want love in my life. I mean, dates are hard to come by, but a dog will always lick your face. And sort of the thing I thought of was a principle, even though it sounds a little corny, but it was really that if your heart is full of love, it doesn't know if it's giving it or it's getting it. If it were that smart an organ, it would be your brain. So that became the first book in this series, which was Why My Third Husband Will Be a Dog. And so we sort of written 6 books since then. The most recent one, as you said, Does This Beach Make Me Look Fat? Which is really about how you shouldn't sweat it. And happily just made the Times bestseller list. So after 6 years of working at it, we did. But the key thing is that they're just funny stories about life that I think women can relate to.